welcome to this afternoon's discussion on the case of Michael Myers and others. So, where would the group like to start?
The film starts with Michael killing his older sister when he was a child.
Yeah, John Carpenter, Deb Hill, just both feet right into it in the opening scene. Not that I want to ignore the opening scene because I do think it's seminal, but as someone who is not a child psychiatrist, probably don't have a lot to say about it. I'm much more interested in focusing on this character, multiple characters, as adults. So 16 or so years later, escaping Smith's Grove, and then again establishing the different rules of Fright Club, especially focused on an adult Michael Myers. We are not allowed to come to the conclusion or reach the single best answer of antisocial personality disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder. And then the third rule of Fright Club, we do not talk about shared psychotic disorder. Right? So now, make it easy for you guys. Initial thoughts, if we're focusing on, I assume, Michael Myers. And it doesn't have to be a diagnosis. I mean, what behaviors caught your eye?
I was trying to understand his motives for choosing his targets. At first, I thought it was women, but then I was thinking maybe people in relationships. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
He also, we never see his face, so he's always covered, he's not presenting his identity externally, and I lost my train of thought. He's nonverbal.
What's your take on the mask?
It's an interesting choice because it's not non-human-esque, but he also doesn't choose to present his true form.
Right. So I think a couple of ideas. Number one is, I think in the original script, he's written in as the Shape. So that further kind of reinforces this idea that he's this faceless character. And along those lines, and I know we don't talk about antisocial personality, but I will mention psychopathy. The idea of just not being behind the mask or being dead behind the mask. So that's something to consider. Here's the idea of psychopathy. Not a clinical diagnosis per se, but certainly a clinical term, right? And it's a clinical term largely developed by Hare for severe antisocial states. So the severity of the condition that is published as antisocial personality disorder elevates to the degree of psychopathy. And that's something that is to consider here. Now, the other thing I want to mention, too, and this kind of folds in the idea of sociopathy. Generally speaking, difference?
Doesn't one have to do with empathy versus non-empathy?
Yeah, so I think, psychopathy is something that is a clinical term that is accepted, especially in forensic psychiatry, so that branch of psychiatry. Sociopathy is not readily or uniformly accepted by the field of psychiatry, but is really a term from sociology. And so right off the bat, we're comparing and contrasting apples and oranges, which is not always easy to do. But if we try to take a step back and do our best, the role of empathy, I think, is central to understanding the differentiation. Whereas the individual who might be labeled a sociopath or struggling with sociopathy has the capacity for empathy. That is not the case for individuals with psychopathy. Which is interesting because this is a very loose interpretation, but I'm going to go for it anyway. It's Halloween. It's Halloween week. Getting back to sociopathy and having that severe form of antisocial personality trait, if not full-blown disorder, with empathy, there is I think, a very, very straightforward case in Greek antiquity. Any idea? Greek antiquity, sociopathy. And then, of course, I'm going to discuss why. Greek legend, Greek myth. I have no Greek scholars here, huh? Huh?
Odysseus?
Yeah, Odysseus, right? Well, taking a step back from psychiatry for a second, who is Odysseus? Like, why? What is he known for?
The Cyclops.
Right?
Going on the Odyssey.
Right? Why is his home back to Ithaca following the Trojan War and Odyssey? Why isn't it just a pretty straightforward, leisurely voyage back with a bunch of Greek heroes on that ship?
Because he pisses off the side of the to kill the sun.
Right? Right. He actually brings upon the ire of Poseidon even before that, though. Poseidon is the patron god of Troy. So the Greek warriors here are already put in a very, very precarious position. And after one of the battles, he actually marches on the sacred temple of Poseidon and he desecrates it. Right? Failure to plan ahead is one of the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder. Right? So that's Odysseus. And his entire life is epic. Has everything to do with what happens next, which is pretty much the sequel of the Iliad, following the Trojan War, and that's the Odyssey, back to his kingdom in Ithaca. That Odyssey is fraught with challenges and peril, including Telemachus, who is the Cyclops, but he's often imprisoned as well, and several times by women. And each time, how does he escape? Circe and others. Circe?
I don't know, but I think it
Circe
gets.
the witch, right?
Is it like sexual in nature?
Yeah, seduces them, right? So again, devaluing someone as a form of sexual conquest is also a characteristic of antisocial personality. So Greek antiquity, Odysseus, antisocial personality disorder, and even sociopathy, right? By the way, that ship is full of Greek heroes. They just won a war for Greece. How many survived
Survive the war, survive the journey.
the journey home?
None.
Only one.
Well, Odysseus.
Yeah. No others survive. You're right. No others survive. So, further, I think supporting the idea that we're dealing with somebody struggling with sociopathy. Right. Modern day, and if you heard this question before, please refrain from answering. A modern version of Odysseus, not Greek epic, but TV series adapted to multiple films. So now we have significant canon here with a film franchise.
Let's say Batman. But
Batman, no.
Lord of the Rings.
Not Lord of the Rings. Modern day Odysseus, who is also on a return home from a voyage, and on the return home also is fraught with peril, i.e. the television series. And in this time of peril, often, by the way, he's also the captain of a ship, and often imprisoned by women, and the only way he gets away is by seducing them. I mean, it's pretty much a remake of the Odyssey, isn't it? Gene Roddenberry. Anybody, any sci-fi fans out there?
sorry.
Never saw Star Trek, huh?
Oh, it's Star Trek.
Nonsense.
Yeah, I also know I haven't.
Right? Yeah. Which is really interesting to bring this full circle, but the mask that Michael Myers wears is whose face? the face of the sociopath himself, James T. Kirk of the USS Enterprise. Right? It's actually William Shatner's face. Right. Fun fact. So at your next Halloween party, please feel free to share that one. Right. So psychopathy, sociopathy, Michael Myers. Again, Michael Myers, again, probably psychopathy. Even though he kills from a physically close distance, his psychiatrist describes him as having doll's eyes. Not the most ethical psychiatrist in the world, by the way. We can get to that in a little bit. Right. But it's Michael Myers. What else, though? Since we're not allowed to actually formulate a diagnosis of antisocial personality or psychopathy here.
Going off of the point about like how he chooses his victims, he like kind of seems to become obsessed with Lori, and he kind of like stalks her at first, and then kills her friends, and then finally attempts to kill her.
Why is he so obsessed with her? So maybe aspects of OCD, right? Obsession, intrusive thought. Now, again, this is 1978. This is the babysitter motif. It's the reason why he kills Judith. And then he maybe sees Lori as just a recreation, dramatic reenactment of his original, which would be Judith Myers, right? Any other reason why he would stalk this one person? We also know, and again, this is really, upfront and over the top in Joss Whedon's The Cabin in the Woods, but we do have a virgin Laurie Strode, right? Which, fortunately for her, is very protective in this case, 70s and 80s slasher films. Other thoughts about Michael Myers here?
I don't know how like relevant or important this is, but he seems to be like have some sort of inhuman capabilities. Like he gets killed multiple times and somehow like still survives. I don't know if that's to feed into like a fantastical idea of, you were saying he was described as like a thing or like a figure.
Yeah. There's definitely a supernatural element to that. Unfortunately, if that person presented in clinical practice, I wouldn't be able to go down the supernatural route. I don't think the dean would really appreciate any kind of DSM diagnosing along the lines of, having these types of superpowers. That said, what is something that a clinician would consider here?
Drug use.
Yeah, right? That's where I would start, right? I think it's very fair.
But then they would be like a little bit more like agitated.
Not nearly as calm.
Was that say again?
I don't think he'd be as nearly as
Yeah,
calm and
exactly,
collected.
exactly.
Yeah, it goes against. But then again, John Carpenter probably didn't do all the homework in the world either, nor would he probably want this to make this an academic discussion either. But it is nonetheless, and PCP should be at the top of our list. Which is also interesting because you have your initial impression and observation on the mask, right? So in the form of dissociation, right? We have that dissociative quality in terms of who he is as a person and the persona, using the Jungian term that he expresses to the world. That dissociative effect can actually be something that's physiologic as well, and that's where PCP may also come in.
But the use of the mask, in my mind, like a person with dissociative disorder, like the typical, like the depersonalization form, like I feel like that's a different kind of thing than consciously having on another persona. Maybe like this helps him get into this dissociative state or something like that. But like, in my mind, it's like I don't know how conscious people are about a second personality persona that would like make them dress up with a mask or something.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. No, I agree. And to that end, it is consistent with the whole idea behind Halloween in general, which is we get to wear masks and just, be a little different one night per year,
Yeah,
right? Like knock on strangers' doors and ask for hospitality.
dissociative holiday.
Which even, I mean, to take even one step even further, there are people that believe that the veil between universes is the thinnest in Halloween too. So we have that dissociative effect too, where you could go to another astral plane, but hopefully without the assistance of a dissociative, like ayahuasca or DMT.
That would help.
It's certainly, again, physiologically, there's no doubt about that. Other thoughts about Michael Myers here? Why doesn't he talk? So, I mean, unfortunately, if he's going to present, you're going to have to do a physical examination, and I doubt if you're going to find vocal cord paralysis. I doubt if you're going to be able to actually have him open his mouth, but no vocal cord paralysis. This is not aphonia. This is mutism, right? And this is not selective mutism either. So selective mutism, well, let me ask, what is selective mutism?
It's only in certain contexts.
True, right? In certain or selected contexts, but and what type of disorders are classified as?
Anxiety.
Yeah, right. Mutism has nothing to do with anxiety. Mutism is simply a clinical finding. It is a mental status as I'm finding when a person isn't talking. Right. So we have someone, Michael, who is demonstrating mutism. Other thoughts here? Is he faking it? And let me just rephrase the question. Is there any evidence in this film or any of the 10 plus sequels and 2 plus reboots that might lead us to believe that he's faking it? Well,
You mean like intentionally staying quiet?
Yeah.
What do you mean by faking it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So what 2 conditions, if we're taking a shelf exam, C and D, can we now cross out?
Malingering and factitious.
Right, everybody got that? Malingering and factitious disorder now are ruled out. Now, again, if they make Halloween, that's would be 14, and Michael stepped forward and said, I put over on those guys for the last, 40 years. Sure, we have to reconsider, but beyond that, we could rule those out for now. What then would we continue to consider?
Like the only thing that I'm like easily thinking of is associated with mutism is like catatonic state, what he's definitely not like. Like I don't know if there's like other forms of catatonia. That, like,
Agitated catatonia?
Agitated. Yeah.
I mean, as a child, he's also not seen speaking. I don't know if there would be some sort of just general cognitive delay there.
Could be. Yeah. But we only see him like so brief, and it's on Halloween, by 1963. Be nice to get a little bit more history, but in the absence of that,
Yeah, like
is the lack of speech, the mutism, consistent with the disorganized speech or the negative symptom of alogia that would suggest one of the signs of schizophrenia? The onset is real young. I mean, it could have a childhood onset, but it's rare.
There's a lot of people in this room.
We're live. Want to come in? We're streaming.
Oh, no, sorry.
We have a special guest here today, our program director at RWJ. Yeah.
What is this on? This is probably what, fetal alcohol syndrome?
No, you're close. You're close. You're too Friday 13th minded. This is Halloween. Very close, though. I'm going to give you the slasher. We are live. Want to come in? I mean, someone who's not talking, for which no physical cause can be found. I would assume that you've done a physical examination. I'm also going to further assume that you did not find any vocal cord paralysis or a physical reason behind Michael's deficit.
like no aphasia or anything like that. Did an MRI on him.
Normal.
Broke doesn't work. He's all good.
Good news. The good news, Mrs. Myers, is that Michael's physically okay.
So is it like conversion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to think conversion versus somatic symptom disorder, right? What's the difference? Because somatic symptoms are going to be sitting there, choice A on a shelf, and conversion is likely to be choice B on a shelf.
It's usually the traumatic stress before conversion scenario.
Hopefully, unfortunately, in a shelf exam, it's 50-50 at best, so be prepared that it's going to be absent, right?
It's usually a neurological condition, like a condition specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, and in this case, if you want to look at loss of speech or lack of speech, is that, sure, conversion disorder, right? Everything else, everything beyond voluntary motor or sensory function would be somatic symptom. So if this were a slasher, that would have, I was going to say, had an irritable bowel. Yeah. Interesting concept for a slasher film, but I think conversion disorder fits here. All right. So Michael Myers has conversion disorder. What are the characters you want to discuss? Halloween, 1978. Any comments on the psychiatrist? Would you like Dr. Loomis? Not very often a psychiatrist get to shoot their patients in the back like that. And he actually makes it to Halloween too as well. So he's not in jail or doesn't get his license revoked. So again, we could really build a whole didactic on ethics in medicine, certainly demonstrated through the character of Dr. Loomis here.
Proportional, that's what they call it. Like, proportionality in the care.
At best. Any other characters? We're good. Somebody tell me how if next sequel, and there can never be too few, or too many. I take that back. There can never be too many double negatives. Next sequel demonstrates or provides information that Michael has been making or attempting, that is a conscious effort to deceive us this whole time. How are you going to differentiate between whether the Halloween franchise now is about malingering versus factitious disorder? So now I want you to differentiate between choice C and choice D on the shelf exam.
It has to be like a pursuit of a gain or malingering.
It's more specific.
Like a reward for doing it. Like you have to. So I guess in his case, maybe I don't know what kind of reward. You know.
I have I guess a follow-up thing is that it will stop once, like in malingering, the behavior will stop once they've achieved that reward. There's conversion.
You're not wrong. I just want a little bit more specificity on what you mean by award.
External versus internal.
External,
Oh.
right? Right. I think that was implied. I just wanted to hear it, right? I want you to be able to know what you're looking for in that answer. It's an external reward. So whether it's money or drugs, in the absence of it, we always default to the reward or award being internal or unconscious, right? So there we talk about gain. And by far the most common example is the assumption of the sick roll, right? Now again, we could ask Mike if spending all that time in the hospital was something that was always his goal, but again, he may not be able to answer you.
Actually, I want to go back to the character question, if that's
Yeah.
okay. Spend a little bit more time on the psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis. And like the one thing that it's interesting to see the way he views him as evil incarnate, Michael Myers as evil incarnate. It's quite the jump from your psychiatrist role to try to figure out some diagnosis and understand a psychological or physiological cognitive reason why the person behaves that way. And maybe for the theatrics of the movie, it's no, this is evil. And, so there's one thing is like the professional responsibility, but then the other thing I'm thinking is like, typically we think about like countertransference and like your relationship with your patient, and like I know that he's been following they've been following Michael Myers throughout the whole entire time since he was a child. So like I'm thinking maybe there's some like countertransference happening to follow a patient that long, and I don't know if he was a child or an adult psychiatrist or he's just a general practitioner or whatever. Like it's just strange to like stick with a patient for that long and have that kind of like relationship with them outside of clinical context as well. It's like he's taking his role into the community in like a warning role. I don't know if he's like a good psychiatrist by calling his patient evil. But
I'm going to just vote no there.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's a word that's ever
But,
used in a clinical context.
And also, I feel like socially, culturally, when we have such horrible acts perpetrated by unwell people, if you want to call it that, that's like what most people just react to say. It's like, what else is it other than evil? You know?
I completely agree, and I think the answer to that is the individuals who do that are those that probably don't read the medical literature, and specifically the academic psychiatry literature. So I'm back to the psychiatrist. I mean, and remember too, I think a lot of us would be so quick to say, well, was that the 70s? And the answer is a hard no, right? Remember, Prozac was FDA approved in the late 70s. So we're talking about a time in psychiatry where a lot of focus was on psychotherapy and empathy. And despite that, we have a doctor calling his patient evil and hunting him. So the other part of this too, and you may actually make a good point, and I really hadn't thought about it much. I don't know if he's a child psychiatrist. I would hope not. I mean, not that this behavior is any better towards adults than children, but it just feels even worse when directed towards a child. So it doesn't come off to me as being an empathetic psychiatrist in the first place, but now responsible for children makes it even worse. I wonder if he's more in administration. I'm not even sure his patient contact and patient encounters are real. And maybe as an administrator. And he talks about studying Michael or helping Michael for the first, whatever, it's 8 years, and then the final, whatever, making sure he doesn't. I wonder if he's not even clinical. Nonetheless, somewhat of a complex character for all the bad reasons. Could probably spend as much time discussing the doctor than the patient here. Final thoughts. We're at the bottom of the hour. How comfortable are you guys in that differential and that algorithm of going through the somatic symptom and related disorders? You're okay?
Yeah.
Again, anytime anybody, and we'll name our patient Michael, presents with a chief complaint, if there is no physiologic reason that would explain why the individual is feeling the way they do. One of the first things you have to consider, one of the first things as a test taker to look for is whether or not they are making a conscious effort to deceive you. If there is absence of that, then you're going to default to the column that they're not lying. And your differential there is somatic symptom versus conversion. In the situation in which there is overt evidence that they are making a conscious effort to deceive you, your differential is malingering versus factitious, and then you have to look at the motivation behind the deceitful behavior. If it's motivated by external reward, you're going to call it malingering. In the absence of any external incentive, you're going to default to it being internal or unconscious, and there you have factitious disorder, right? And that could be factitious or factitious imposed on another, which is formerly known as factitious by proxy or Munchausen's by proxy. Right? All right, we'll end it there. Happy Halloween, everybody. And any other questions, obviously, now through Friday. I'm more than available for you guys.